Welcome. Don't adjust your dial. Welcome everyone to the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. I'm your host Michael Pickering. That's right, Lo-Fi's and low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. Here we're going to talk about that famous question, what's going on in the world today? And it's Thursday and time for that Lo-Fi global news, fresh off that press. Source, the Reuters World News. Bolivia restores ties with Iran, Venezuela, after socialists return to power. Things are changing fast in Bolivia since the new president came to power 3 days ago. Former President Evo Morales has returned from exile back to Bolivia. Now diplomatic ties with Iran and Venezuela are rekindled. Keep your eyes open on this one, Lo-Fi Nation. I'm sure there's more to come from the new government in Bolivia. Next up, source, AP News International. EU unveils first plan to address LGBT rights and discrimination. That's right, the EU is making moves to counter Poland and Hungary's growing anti-LGBT governments. The EU Commission is proposing to increase hate speech to also include homophobic rhetoric, as well as recognizing same-sex parenthood in all EU countries. But Poland is pushing back and has threatened to veto the EU's budget proposal coming up if the EU doesn't back off from its pushing the issue of the rule of law in the country, a topic I'm sure we'll come back to soon enough. But to quote the EU Commission Vice President, begin quote, "This is not about ideology. This is not about being men or women. This is about love." End quote. I dig it. It's all about love, Lo-Fi listeners. Now, moving forward because we never move on from anything. Source, the Africa section of the BBC. Jerry Rawlings, Ghana's ex-president, dies aged 73. Now, this is a topic that just may end up on Pickering Unplugged next week, but we'll have to wait and see what else comes out in the world till then. The story. Former two-time President Jerry Rawlings and two-time former military coup leader has passed away. It was during his tenure as president that slowly Ghana began its route toward democratization and really being the beacon of hope for many African nations across the continent. That being said, former President Rawlings most certainly had his flaws, but we'd need a lot more time to talk about that. Hence, Pickering Unplugged, perhaps. But this story is worth noting, as he was an extremely influential figure in the development of Ghana and where that country is today. And our following story comes from Reuters World News. Mexican prosecutors accuse ex-president of directing graft newspaper. And speaking of former presidents, former PRI leader and former president Enrique Peña Nieto of Mexico was named in a government document requesting an arrest warrant for an aide of the president for bribes they were directed to perform under order of the president. Now, this document does not request an arrest warrant for former President Nieto. But hey, we will most certainly be keeping an eye on this one. And a last piece of news to send you on your way for the day. Source, the oddities section of the AP. NYC woman gets ill Swan to clinic via foot, car, and subway. Now this wonderful human being deserves to be named. Ariel Cordova Roja rescues a swan that was suffering from lead poisoning and infection. She's trained in wildlife rescue, so when she saw the swan in a park, alone, unable to walk or fly, she knew something was wrong. She walked, people gave her a ride with the 17-pound swan in the car, and she took a subway with the swan, just to get the ill swan to a wild bird fund clinic. The swan, now known as Bay, is recovering and making a new swan friend at the clinic. I love a happy ending. And what's more, it was Ariel's 30th birthday when she did all of this. And from all Lo-Fi Nation to you, wherever you are, happy birthday, Ariel. Thank you for being an amazing human being. And that's a brief snapshot of what's going on in the world today. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode of Good News Friday. Always remember that Lo-Fi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, wash those hands, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Lo-Fi Poli Sci podcast. Pickering, signing off.